Have you ever watched your grandchild race around the house after a cupcake and thought, where does all that energy come from? And maybe, a little later, seeing that same child melt into a puddle of crankiness and thought, there it is. It's funny how quickly the sugar roller coaster takes off, and even faster how it crashes. If you've been noticing that snacks these days seem a little sweeter, or that kids are eating more treats than ever before, you are not imagining it. Sugar is everywhere now, in cereal, yogurt, bread, juice boxes, even things like spaghetti sauce. And while a little treat now and then is perfectly fine, too much sugar, especially for growing kids, can mess with everything from their energy and focus to their mood and immune system. And as a grandparent, you might find yourself caught in the middle. You want to keep your grandkids happy when they visit, maybe spoil them a little, which is your right, of course, but you also want to make sure they're healthy. You might see things their parents miss, like frequent colds, trouble sleeping, or tantrums that seem to come out of nowhere. And deep down, you wonder, is it the sugar? Well, you're not wrong to ask that question. The truth is, sugar affects kids more than we sometimes realize. And too much of it, over time, can lead to things like weight gain, behavioral issues, tooth decay, and even trouble concentrating in school. But here's the good news, you don't have to fight a battle to make a difference. You don't have to yank cookies out of their hands or ban birthday cake. You just need a few smart, simple tricks that cut sugar quietly, without causing a fuss. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Let's start with one of the easiest shifts you can make, cutting down on sugary drinks. Juice, soda, flavored milk, they can pack in more sugar than you'd expect. A single juice box can have as much sugar as a candy bar. But here's the catch, kids don't think of juice as a treat. They think of it as just something they drink with lunch. That's why this one sneaks by so easily. Instead of cutting it out completely and causing a scene, try this, dilute the juice. Fill half the cup with water, and the rest with juice. If you do it gradually, most kids don't even notice. You can also freeze pieces of fruit, like strawberries or orange slices, and drop them into water for flavor. It's colorful, it's fun, and it feels special without all the sugar. And if they're still asking for soda? Sparkling water with a splash of juice feels fizzy and exciting, but without all that syrupy sweetness. Sometimes it's not about what you take away, it's about giving them something just as enjoyable, just a little smarter. Now let's talk about breakfast. You'd think it's the most innocent meal of the day, but breakfast is where sugar really likes to hide. Those colorful cereals, granola bars, even flavored oatmeal can be packed with sugar. The trick here isn't to ban their favorite cereal. That'll just start a tug-of-war, and we know how kids dig in their heels when they feel something is being taken away. Instead, try mixing it. If they love a sweet cereal, pour a smaller portion of that and mix it with a plain version, like unsweetened oats or a whole grain flake. You're reducing the sugar by half or more without denying them their favorite part. And over time, they may even start preferring the milder taste. Another breakfast swap that works wonders? Add protein. Eggs, plain Greek yogurt, nut butter on whole grain toast, these help balance blood sugar and keep kids feeling full longer. That means fewer mid-morning crashes and less begging for snacks an hour later. You're helping them start the day with steadiness, not a sugar spike. And speaking of snacks, let's be honest, kids snack a lot. Crackers, granola bars, fruit snacks, all those kid-friendly options often have more sugar than we'd like. But snacks don't have to be processed to be fun. You can offer naturally sweet options like apple slices with peanut butter, frozen grapes, or a banana rolled in crushed nuts or seeds. These still feel like treats, but they don't overload the system with added sugar. Now, I get it, there are times when the sugar just shows up, whether you planned for it or not. Birthday parties, school events, visits to friends' houses, it's part of childhood. And that's okay. You don't need to be the sugar police. You just need to guide the balance. One little trick I've used with my own grandkids is what I like to call sweet timing. If they're going to have something sugary, I try to time it with a meal, not between meals. Having sugar alongside proteins, fats, and fiber helps slow down how it's absorbed in the body. It's a small adjustment, but it really helps avoid those wild spikes and crashes. And perhaps most importantly, talk about food in a way that builds awareness, not shame. Instead of saying, "That's bad for you," try, "Let's pick something that gives you energy," or "This snack helps your brain work better." Kids want to feel strong and smart. When they understand how food helps them do that, they become more curious and more willing to make better choices on their own. These little shifts don't just lower sugar, they build habits. They shape how a child sees food, how they understand balance, and how they feel in their bodies. And that influence? That starts with you. Now that we've laid the groundwork with drinks and breakfast, and talked about how to gently guide kids toward smarter snacks, let's move on to how we can keep those changes going, without any fuss, arguments, or eye-rolling at the dinner table. Sometimes, the challenge isn't just making the changes, it's keeping them going. Especially when you've got a clever little one who knows how to negotiate their way into another cookie or sneak that second serving of dessert. And let's be honest, many of us remember doing the same thing when we were kids. But here's the key, it doesn't have to be a battle. In fact, the less it feels like a battle, the more likely you are to win in the long run. Now, one of the biggest sugar traps people don't always think about is packaged foods that look healthy on the surface. Granola bars, fruit yogurt, even some so-called healthy cereals, they're loaded with added sugar. And kids get used to that taste. The sweeter something is, the more their taste buds expect it. But this is where you, as a grandparent, can come in with a gentle shift. Not a dramatic overhaul, just a tweak here and there. If your grandchild loves those store-bought yogurts that taste more like dessert than dairy, try this. Get a tub of plain yogurt and stir in fresh fruit. Maybe a little bit of mashed banana or a drizzle of honey, just enough to take the edge off the tartness. Let them help you mix it. When kids help make something, they're more likely to try it and enjoy it. You could even make it a little kitchen adventure. Make a yogurt bar with different fruit toppings, a few nuts or seeds, and let them build their own bowl. Suddenly, it's not about what they're missing, it's about what they get to create. And they're still getting sweetness, but from natural sources like fruit instead of refined sugar. The same idea works with baking. If you like to bake together, which, by the way, is one of the most joyful ways to bond, you can experiment with using less sugar in your recipes. Most baked goods turn out just fine with a quarter less sugar than what's listed. Sometimes even half. Kids rarely notice, especially if you use things like mashed banana, applesauce, or even sweet potato to add natural flavor and moisture. And the best part? You're teaching them that treats don't have to be loaded with sugar to taste good. You're showing them that homemade can be healthier and more delicious. That's a lesson they'll carry with them well beyond childhood. Another tip that might surprise you, don't hide everything. If you make sugar this mysterious, forbidden thing, kids get even more curious about it. Instead, talk openly about how different foods make us feel. Ask your grandchild how their tummy feels after eating certain things. Do they feel tired? Still hungry? Wired? Help them connect the dots between what they eat and how their body responds. You can say things like, "That donut was tasty, but do you feel full? Or still kind of hungry? Or, how do you feel after having that fruit and cheese plate instead of cookies?" You're not scolding or judging, you're inviting them to tune into their own body. And believe it or not, kids can be surprisingly insightful when you give them the chance. And when they do want a treat, make it intentional. Sit down, enjoy it together, make it a moment. A small cookie enjoyed at the table with a cup of tea and a good chat feels so much more satisfying than scarfing down snacks in front of a screen. It's about slowing down, being present, and creating positive memories around food, not guilt or secrecy. Another thing that helps with cutting sugar? Keeping meals predictable. When kids know they're going to eat breakfast at 8, lunch at noon, and dinner at 6, their bodies and brains adjust. They're less likely to graze all day, and that cuts down on the mindless nibbling of sugary snacks. If they ask for a treat right before dinner, instead of saying no, you can say, "We're eating soon, let's wait and see if you're still hungry after." You're not denying them, you're just helping them think it through. And sometimes, you'll hit a little resistance. Maybe they really want that candy bar, or they grumble about the plain yogurt. That's okay. Change doesn't happen overnight. What matters is consistency, not perfection. Maybe they only eat a few bites today. Maybe they grumble less tomorrow. But over time, their taste buds will adapt, and their bodies will, too. It's just like tending a garden. You don't plant a seed and expect a flower the next day. You water it, give it sunlight, and wait. That's how it is with changing food habits. The more positive experiences you create around real food, the more their bodies will start craving the good stuff naturally. And let's not forget, kids watch everything. If they see you enjoying fresh fruit, or asking for less sugar in your tea, or choosing a handful of almonds over a candy bar, they notice. You don't have to lecture them. You just have to lead by quiet example. That, more than anything, speaks volumes. So whether you're baking muffins with half the sugar, adding a splash of juice to sparkling water, or sitting down to talk about how food makes us feel, what you're really doing is helping build a healthy relationship with food. One that's based on awareness, balance, and enjoyment, not rules and restrictions. Now that we've covered some clever ways to shift their sugar habits without drama, there's one more area we haven't touched on yet, an area where sugar often hides in plain sight, and where just one simple change can make a big difference in how they feel and function. We've talked about swapping out some of those sugar-packed snacks and drinks, and how you can gently shift your grandkids' taste buds toward healthier options. But there's one more piece to the puzzle that can make a big difference, keeping sugar out of places where it's hiding. You'd be surprised how many foods contain added sugar, even when you don't expect it. Take ketchup, for example. It's a classic go-to for kids, right? And while it's tasty, many store-bought varieties are packed with sugar. If your grandchild loves ketchup on their fries or with chicken nuggets, try switching to a version that has little or no added sugar. Better yet, make your own at home. It's easy, and you can control exactly what goes in it. Even just using a little less ketchup on their plate can help reduce their sugar intake without making a fuss. Another sneaky place sugar hides is in breads and cereals. Many whole wheat or multigrain breads are marketed as healthy, but check the ingredients, and you might find sugar sneaking its way in. It's in there to make the bread softer, more palatable, and just a little bit sweeter. The same goes for cereals. A box might say whole grain or high fiber, but a quick look at the nutrition label often reveals quite a bit of added sugar. So, what can you do about it? Start by opting for unsweetened bread, and choose cereal that's free from added sugars. If your grandchild is used to sweet cereals, you can help them transition by mixing a little of the sugary kind with the healthier options, gradually lowering the amount of sugar until it's mostly the healthier cereal. They won't even notice, and over time, they'll adjust to a less sweet breakfast. And let's not forget about smoothies. They seem like a healthy choice, right? But if you're using sugary fruit juices or pre-made smoothie packs, that can add up quickly. When making smoothies, try to stick to whole fruits, some leafy greens, a little bit of nut butter, and unsweetened yogurt or almond milk. This way, you're giving them a burst of nutrients without the sugar crash later. But here's a pro tip, even with all these swaps, it's still okay to give your grandchild an occasional treat. After all, food should be enjoyable, not a source of stress. The key is balance. If most of their meals are filled with natural, whole foods, a small treat once in a while won't derail their health. In fact, teaching them about moderation and making them aware of how sugar affects their energy levels will set them up for a lifetime of healthy choices. And speaking of teaching, you don't have to do it alone. Getting your family involved in this healthy eating shift makes it so much easier. Explain the why behind these changes, not in a preachy way, but in a way that's informative and fun. You could say something like, "Did you know that too much sugar can make us feel tired or even make it harder to focus? That's why we're choosing snacks that help us feel better and stay strong." When your grandkids start understanding that the goal isn't to eliminate all the sweet stuff forever, but to enjoy it in a way that doesn't leave them feeling sluggish or sick, it becomes less about restriction and more about self-care. You're not just cutting sugar out of their diet, you're helping them build habits that will stick with them for life. And sometimes it's the little things that make a big difference. For instance, instead of sugary soft drinks, try replacing them with sparkling water. You can make it fun by adding slices of fruit, like lemon, lime, or berries, for flavor. A simple switch like that can be refreshing, fun, and still feel like a treat. Or, if they're craving a sweet snack after school, try a homemade trail mix with a bit of dark chocolate, some dried fruit, and unsalted nuts. It's got just the right balance of sweetness and nutrition. Now, I know that making these changes may not always be instant. It might take time for your grandkids to adjust. But remember, just like any new habit, it's all about consistency. If you keep offering these healthier choices without making them a big deal, they'll start to see them as the new normal. And soon enough, they might start asking for the fruit instead of the candy, or reaching for the sparkling water instead of a sugary soda. At the end of the day, what you're really giving them is a gift, a healthy relationship with food. By gently guiding them away from too much sugar and helping them embrace more whole, natural foods, you're setting them up for a lifetime of well-being. You're showing them how to enjoy food in a way that supports their energy, focus, and overall health. And that's something they'll thank you for, even if they don't realize it right away. Now, before we wrap things up, let's take a moment to talk about one more critical point: keeping the lines of communication open. When you make these changes, talk to your grandkids about it. Let them know why you're choosing these healthier options and how they can still enjoy their favorite things in a way that makes them feel good. They're more likely to buy in when they understand the reasons behind the changes. And, remember, it's okay if they slip up now and then. Nobody's perfect, and a little bit of sugar now and then won't ruin their progress. What matters is the overall pattern, the everyday choices you help them make that lead to better health, more energy, and happier, healthier years ahead. I hope you've found some inspiration in these ideas, and I really believe that with just a few simple shifts, you can help your grandkids, or any kids in your life, cut back on sugar in a way that feels easy and natural. You're not taking away their joy, you're giving them the tools to enjoy life even more. So, the next time you sit down for a snack or plan a meal, think about those small swaps. You've got this. And before you go, don't forget to share your thoughts with me in the comments. Let me know what works for you or any tips you've discovered. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more ideas that make your life, and the lives of those you love, healthier and happier. Here's to building healthier habits for a brighter future, one step at a time.